Hello everyone, and welcome to this recorded webinar on Erasmus Plus KA1 Youth. This webinar is aimed at all applicants looking to apply for funding in 2018 under the decentralized trend of KA1, known as Mobility for Young People and Youth Workers. We will primarily focus on how to complete the application form and provide you with some helpful hints and tips regarding the application process. If you would like more information on KA1 Youth, you can refer to the 2018 Programme Guide and other guidance from the UK National Agency. My name is Melissa Maddy and I am an Assistant Programme Manager working within the Erasmus Plus team and will be your presenter today. Here is an overview of what this webinar recording will cover. A quick introduction to KA1 Mobility for Young People and Youth Workers, looking at the two different opportunities available under this key action. Focusing mainly on the application form, we will first look at what you need to do before applying, then we will go through the application form together, and then we'll round up the key points. Lastly, we would like to mention the next steps and how to contact us if you are in need of support in the run-up to the deadline. Before we begin, I would like to briefly provide you with an update on the Erasmus Plus programme in terms of Brexit. The National Agency of Erasmus Plus in the UK remain wholly committed to the Erasmus Plus programme and its benefits. The National Agency strongly supports continued full membership of the programme for the UK through to 2020 as planned under the proposed Brexit implementation period, so that at least 250,000 people across the UK have the chance to study, train or volunteer abroad, and that UK organisations can continue to collaborate on international projects. The UK continues to be a full member of the EU until the point it leaves, as stated in the Prime Minister's letter triggering Article 50. The European Commission and European Parliament have confirmed that during negotiations under Article 50, European Union treaties and law continue to apply to the UK, and this applies to projects financed through Erasmus+. The UK government has stated publicly that the United Kingdom is committed to continuing full participation in the Erasmus Plus programme up until we leave the European Union. With the caveat that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. In principle, the UK will continue to benefit from all EU programmes, including Erasmus Plus, until the end of the current budget plan, 2014-2020. The UK government has made clear that it values international exchanges. It is in the unlikely event of a no-deal scenario, the government guarantee already made still stands, meaning that successful applications which are submitted while the EU is still a member state, even if they are not approved until we leave, can continue beyond the point of exit. The guarantee applies to funding allocated to UK organisations, whether in applications submitted to Brussels, centralised, or to a national agency, decentralised, whether or not the UK is the lead partner. UK organisations wishing to apply for funding in 2018 should prepare for participation as usual ahead of the 2018 application deadlines. More information is on the Brexit update webpage. Now back to our subject. KA1 provides opportunities for individuals to improve their skills, enhance their employability, and gain cultural awareness through transnational mobility. Under KA1, organizations can apply for funding to offer structured study, work experience, job shadowing, training, and teaching opportunities to both learners, young people, and staff, youth workers. These are the KA1 Youth deadline for 2018. The third and last remaining deadline is the 4th of October 2018. Please remember that all applications can be submitted online only, and most importantly, their submission must be made by 11 a.m. UK time, which is 12 midday Brussels time, on the day of the actual deadline. Any application submitted after this will not be considered eligible for funding. As you can see on the screen, under Key Action 1 Youth, there are opportunities for both young people and youth workers. The types of projects that can be supported under this Key Action are mobility projects for young people, youth exchanges, and mobility projects for youth workers, called Mobility of Youth Workers. Please note that compared to previous years, in 2018, while it is still possible to include youth exchanges and mobility of youth workers activities in the same application form, volunteering activities are now available under the European Solidarity Corps. For more information, please visit our website. In the following slides, we will look into youth exchanges and mobilities of youth workers in more details. We will start with projects that focus on mobility for young people, youth exchanges. Youth exchanges allow groups of young people aged between 13 and 30 to meet and live together working on a chosen topic. It is important to note that the minimum age of 13 must be reached at the start of the activity, and the maximum age of 30 must not be exceeded at the time of the application. The project duration can vary between 3 to 24 months, and the duration of the mobility activities can be between 5 and 21 days. This is excluding travel. Activities can include workshops, debates, role plays, outdoor activities, arts and crafts related activities. All of these are to be designed and prepared by young people before the exchange. Tourist and holiday activities, festival and performance tours are not eligible youth exchange activities. For this type of project, at least 2 participating organizations from both Erasmus Plus program countries and partner countries neighboring the EU are required. Please refer to the program guide or our website for the list of countries that fall under those categories. Each country involved in the project must put forward a national group of participants for the exchange. This must have a minimum of 4 young people and 1 group leader. Young people must be supported and supervised during the exchange itself by group leaders aged 18 and over for the participating organization, who assumes responsibility for leading the activity and ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the participants. The total number of participants must be between 16 and 60 participants in total, plus group leaders. Multiple exchanges within the same project are possible, allowing for reciprocal exchanges. Advanced planning visits can be included in this project as well. Specific to youth exchanges, advanced planning visits allow staff and young people to visit the country hosting the youth exchange and make preparation for the mobility, such as carrying out risk assessments or checking the suitability of the accommodation. Their duration must be of maximum 2 days, excluding travel days, and the number of participants is usually 1 participant per group, normally a group leader. It is possible to raise the number to 2 participants per group, only if the second participant is a young person who will take part in the youth exchange. Project focusing on mobility of youth workers supports the professional development of youth workers of any age. The project duration can be between 3 and 24 months, with activities lasting from 2 to 2 months, excluding any travel days. A maximum of 50 participants can be included within each mobility of youth worker activity. These projects include transnational, international seminars, training courses, contact-making events, and study visits. A job shadowing observation period abroad in an organization active in the youth field is also possible. Organizations involved in mobility projects will have one of the following three types of roles: coordinator, sending organizations, and receiving hosting organization, all with specific roles and tasks. The coordinator applies for the whole project on behalf of all the partner organizations, sometimes referred to as the applicant organization. Organizations must be based and registered in the UK and can be public bodies, NGOs, CIC, CIO, registered charities, limited companies, profit-making bodies active in corporate social responsibility, CSR, and informal groups of young people aged between 13 and 30. Please find additional information on eligible types of organizations and on the definition of informal groups in the KA1 Youth Guide for Applicants section to check that you are an eligible organization. The sending organization is in charge of sending young people or youth workers abroad. This includes organizing the necessary practical arrangement, pre-departure preparation of participants. The receiving organization is in charge of hosting the actual activity, developing the program of activities for participants in cooperation with the other participating organizations. Both the sending and receiving organizations are responsible of providing support to the participant throughout the lifetime of the project during all its phases. The project coordinator can also act as a sending or receiving organization. Now, to take a look at the budget rules. As you can see on the slide, there is no maximum budget that can be requested, but this will have to be a realistic request based on the planned activities and your organizational capacity. Some costs do effectively have caps in place, so you should check the Erasmus Plus program guide before you apply. Some key points to remember about the budget. They are unit cost contributions and actual cost contributions. With unit cost, the funding is automatically calculated depending on the unit. For example, it can be the number of participants for a certain duration or a set cost per distance traveled. Budget headings using unit cost are travel and organizational support. Funding for actual cost is based on the real cost of the item or service, but only a certain percentage of the cost will be covered. Budget headings using actual cost or special needs support up to 100%, and exceptional cost. Under exceptional cost, only a percentage of the actual total cost will be funded via the Erasmus Plus budget. Please find more information on page 85 to 93 of the program guide. It is important to note that any requests for financial support to cover special needs support and exceptional costs must be clearly explained in the application form. The assessor will not assume anything in relation to those costs and can recommend cutting them from the budget unless adequately justified. Also, it was noted that in the budget section for KA105 forms, although you have comment boxes for special needs support and exceptional costs, there is no general budget comment section. Therefore, if you wish to provide additional information regarding budget, please use the activities section to do so. When writing your application, it is important to link your KA1 project to the overarching European priorities and show the added value of carrying out your project on a European level. When doing so, it is important to keep the general objectives of the Erasmus Plus program in mind, as well as the important features of the program. The general objectives of Erasmus Plus are to contribute to a number of policies, which are those you can see on this slide. The objectives are covered in more detail in Part A of the Erasmus Plus program guide, as well as the following important features of the Erasmus Plus program. The Europe 2020 strategy, including the headline Education Target. The strategic framework for European cooperation in education and training, known as ET 2020. The EU Youth strategy, Erasmus Plus inclusion and diversity strategy, any other relevant national youth policies in the countries represented in your project can be searched using the European Commission's Youth Wiki website. You can find links to all these documents in our 2018 Guide for Applicants. The important features of Erasmus Plus are detailed in Part A of the program guide and include recognition of skills and multilingualism. Please read through them carefully in your own time. Please also have a look at the specific objectives for the field of education and training on page 28 of the program guide. Before we look at the application form, I would like to mention a few very important pre-application steps that you should take. You will need to ensure that you have obtained a PIC, which stands for Participant Identification Code, for your organization before applying. This is a 9-digit number which is unique to your organization and will allow you to complete the application form. Also, you need to make sure that all the details on your organization are correct on the European Commission's participant portal. If you don't already have a PIC, you will need to complete 2 registration steps. Firstly, you will need to register on EU Login. This is a portal for user authentication and grants access to a wide range of EU Commission tools with a single username and password. The registration process is very simple, and you can download a guide on our website, which will talk you through how to do this. This can be found under the Before You Apply section. You will then need to obtain a PIC through registering on the participant portal. The participant portal is the single entry point for the electronic administration of Erasmus Plus projects, as well as projects funded under other EU programs. After starting the registration process, you will be prompted to provide information about your organization, as well as upload documents related to your organization. These documents are needed to prove the legal status and financial capacity of your organization, and it is essential that the information on these documents matches the information you've inputted on the portal. If you are creating a PIC, make sure you register onto the correct participant portal. The link provided in the guide for applicants and on our website is for the Education, Audiovisual, Culture, Citizenship and Volunteering portal, which is the correct one. However, if you were simply to search on the internet, you might come across the Research Participant portal, which is not the correct portal for Erasmus+. Please be aware that all of your partners will also need to have obtained a PIC and have uploaded all of the necessary supporting documents on the participant portal before you can submit your application. This is because the details of all the participating organizations will be pulled into the application from the participant portal and cannot be completed manually. Finally, for your partners, you will also need to download the 2018 Partner Mandate templates from our website and have them filled in by each partner and signed by both parties by hand. Make sure that all the information, such as the name of the organization, address, legal representatives, registration number, and legal form on the Partner Mandate is identical to the information in the application form. Otherwise, the Partner Mandates will not be accepted. The mandates are necessary for you to be able to act on behalf of the entire partnership. Now, to the application. To open the application, you need to click on the link to the Erasmus Plus Forms website, which takes you to the EU login screen. You will find this on our website under Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page. Log in using your EU login details. You will then be directed to the home page that looks like the one you see on the screen. You will notice 2 main tabs: Open Calls, which will show all key actions, from where you will choose the appropriate application form. You will also notice the tab My Applications. at the top of the page. Here you should see any applications you have already started or finalized. On this page, once you identify the correct application form, select Apply on the Youth Mobility option. Once you have clicked Apply, a welcome message will appear. Please read this carefully as it gives you important information on some of the form functions. Each time you click on Apply, a new draft of the application will be created and saved here. Therefore, if you have multiple application drafts saved, ensure you open and edit the correct one, the one you want to submit. The application is saved automatically every 2 seconds. There is therefore no option to save the form, and you must ensure that you are connected to the internet at all times. After you have finished with the pre-application steps, you can move on to the application form itself. The application form will need to be submitted online by the applicant organization by the deadline. Please keep in mind that it is 11 a.m. UK time, as the deadline for applications is 12 p.m. Brussels time. You must access the Key Action 105 application through the Erasmus Plus Forms website. As mentioned previously, the link is available in our guide for applicants and on the Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page on the Erasmus Plus website. To make sure you are working on the correct Key Action 1 application form, you should check the areas you can see on this slide. In the top right-hand corner, the form should state 2018 as the call year and the specific key actions such as the action type. Key Action 105 for youth exchanges or youth worker mobility, being youth mobility as a general key action. You will also see the correct deadline for the specific round. Now we will go into the actual application form and run through this with you. As you may already be aware, the application form must be completed online in your web browser. The form works with the following browsers: Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Chrome. We recommend, where possible, that you use a PC to complete the form. You will still need Adobe Reader to download the Declaration of Honor. We will now go through each section of the Key Action 1 Youth Mobility application, highlighting the structure of the web application form. For more detailed guidance on each section, refer to our Key Action 1 Youth Guide for Applicants, which is available on the Erasmus Plus website under the Apply for Youth Funding page. There you will also find a link to the application form when it becomes available. It is important that you consult the most up-to-date versions of the guidance documents. This includes the 2018 Program Guide, the 2018 Guide for Applicants created by the national agency, and most importantly, selecting the correct application form and round, in your case, Youth Mobility for Key Action 1 Youth 2018 Round 3. The menu on the left displays each section of the application form. It shows a red triangle until each mandatory section has been fully completed with correct information. Individual boxes within each section are also marked with a red line on the left-hand side until information has been entered correctly. Application cannot be submitted until all sections have been marked with a green tick. As you may already be The first section of the web form is the contact section. Here you will need to enter your project details, which include project title, project acronym if applicable, start date, project duration, and so forth. Some key points to note. Please refer to our guide for applicants for the earliest and latest possible start and end dates for your project. These can be entered manually or selected using the calendar. Ensure that you use the right format of a date with hyphens if you enter it manually. The project duration should be between 3 and 24 months and is selected using the drop-down menu. The project end date will automatically populate. The national agency selected must be UK01, United Kingdom. The language must be English. The overall project duration will need to encompass all project-related activities from promotion and recruitment through to evaluation and dissemination. It is important to consider a realistic project duration to be able to carry out all activities to a high standard. You are expected to carry out project activities up until your project end date before you can report on your project and request any final payments of your grant. Therefore, please bear this in mind when planning the length of your project. You should also ensure you have incorporated sufficient time before your activities start to be able to purchase economical travel tickets and allow for enough time to prepare the participants. In addition, we also recommend you allow time for preparation and be wary of delays in receiving your contracts for the project. Please note that if you are awarded funding, the indicative date for signing your contract with the UK National Agency is 5 months after the application deadline. You are therefore advised to select a project start date with this in mind, as the costs for any activities incurred before your contract is signed are at your own risk. As you can see, now that I have completed all the fields, this section is marked green. Moving on to the participating organization section. This has two subsections, applicant organization and partner organization. You may add a new partner via the Add Partner button at the bottom of the screen. The web form will create a new subsection under Partner Organizations. This process will repeat every time you add a new partner organization. To enter the details of your organization and partner, enter the PIC number in the corresponding box. This will automatically populate organization's legal name for the from the participant portal. You can view organization details by selecting the name or clicking the menu button on the right-hand side of the row. Organization details allow you to view details and reset. PIC data should be used if any changes are made on the participant portal after adding the PIC to the application form. You will notice that there are a number of boxes grayed out. This information is populated from the participant portal and cannot be amended. If any of this information is incorrect, ensure you update the participant portal before submitting your application. As you can see, not all information is automatically completed. You will have to complete the following sections: profile, associated persons, and background and experience. Please note, if the answer to the question regarding your organization being a public body or a for-profit organization active in corporate social responsibility is yes, organizational support amounts will be reduced by 50% as highlighted in the 2018 Program Guide on page 92. The next section below is associated persons. The details of the legal representative and contact person should be added here by clicking on the menu button of the corresponding row. The section for both the contact person and legal representative needs to be completed in full for the section to record as complete. It is important that the legal representative's details are consistent throughout the application form, the declaration of honor, partner mandates, and other supporting documents. If your project is successful, the legal representative will be required to enter your organization into a legally binding commitment to the project, so you must select someone who is authorized to do so on behalf of your organization. If the legal representative is based at the same address as your organization, you should click Same address as organization, which will populate this section with the same address that you entered on the participant portal. The menu across the top of the page will allow you to navigate between sections and pages. The contact person will be the first point of contact during the application process, and should the application be successful for the contracting and delivery of the project. We strongly recommend that the contact person is different from the legal representative and that if any details change, the UK National Agency is notified. Now, if you go back using the top menu button to the applicant organization section and then scroll down to the associated person subsection, you can see that you can also add additional associated persons. For example, if you wish to include a second contact person, you can click on the Add Associated Person button. Associated persons can be removed by clicking the menu button and selecting Delete Person. The final subsection covers information on the background and experience of your organization. The information in this section will inform the assessor of your organization's capacity to manage the project and requested grant successfully. You will need to provide an overview of your organization, including your aims and details of the young people you work with. Detail how your organization's previous experience of delivering projects or activities has developed the skills and knowledge needed for the activities you propose in this application. You will also need to enter information on the key staff involved in the project, including the experience and/or qualifications. Finally, you will be asked to indicate if you have applied or received a grant from any European Union programs in the 12 months preceding this application. If you opt yes, you will be required to provide more information on these grants. Select Add Grant to enter more than one. Once the information on the applicant organization has been completed, you will need to go back to the participating organizations. All partners must be added to the application, as we have already done. Similar to the applicant organization, enter your partner's PIC number to pre-fill the organization details, open their details and edit for each partner. You will also have to provide the details of their contact person and upload and legal representatives, as well as their background and experience. Use the Add button to upload additional partners as required. So now that I have completed the details for both the applicant and partner organizations, I will give you some hints and tips to help you with this first section of the application form. A high-quality application will be specific in each section, providing good details on background and experience and naming the key persons delivering the project and their skills. You should emphasize the previous experience of your organization and your partners in delivering projects and activities, as well as the skills and knowledge developed. You need to link these to the activities you propose in the application. Explain how the activities fit into other programs or activities you deliver. This will help the assessor understand the needs and expertise your organization has and the potential impact. Be clear on each partner's work and expertise and why they have been selected. This applies to all partners, including small organizations. Moving on to project description. In this section, you must provide a rationale for your project, identifying the objectives, issues, and needs of the project you will address. Outline how these needs and objectives were established, for example, through research and planning meetings. Where possible, youth exchanges projects should demonstrate how young people were and will be actively involved in shaping the project. You should also show a clear link with the priorities and objectives of KA1 Youth. Further information about this can be found in the program guide and our 2018 guide for applicants. You should detail how the partnerships were formed and their contribution in terms of the skills and experience they have that is relevant to the project. Outline how this project links to the needs and objectives of your partner. For the topic addressed by your project, select up to 3 relevant topics from the options. If your project expects to address more, please choose the 3 most relevant. Moving on to participants' profile. Here you must describe who your participants are and provide details on their background, learning needs, what the learning outcomes of your project are, and if you are involving any participants with your opportunities. You can find a detailed definition of participants with fewer opportunities in the 2018 Program Guide. The participant's profile may vary depending on the activity you are applying for. Therefore, ensure that you refer to the guidance for each relevant activity. Under this section, you will need to describe the participant's actual or likely age range, gender, and how you will ensure gender balance or other pertinent information. You should also detail the recruitment and selection process for all partner groups and how you will ensure a fair and transparent process. Please note that it is expected that participants attend no more than 2 youth exchanges to ensure opportunities are made available to as wide a group of people as possible and to make best use of European funds. Participants must be resident in the country of their sending organization. You must state if your project involves participants with fewer opportunities. If you select yes, you must identify the types of situations these participants are facing. Enter the actual or likely profile of the participants, up to a maximum of 7. Below, you must state what means you will put in place to cater for their specific needs. For more detailed guidance on each category, please refer to page 10 of the 2018 Program Guide in the Equality and Inclusion section. You should outline the competencies or learning outcomes participants will acquire through participating and identify the competencies that specific activities and methods will develop. There should be a clear link between the aims of your project, the activities, and the learning outcomes, and these should be relevant to your participants and address their needs. Erasmus Plus promotes the use of European tools and certificates such as Youth Pass, which is the most commonly used European recognition tool for non-formal and informal learning in youth work. All participants can receive a Youth Pass certificate, and it can be used as a guide throughout the mobility to encourage learning. You have to state if you will use any competence validation certificates, and if so, which ones. Lastly, you will have to explain how you will use these. You can find further information on Youth Pass in our 2018 guide for applicants or by going directly to www.youthpass.eu. The next section is preparation. When completing this section, refer to the information provided in the award criteria for this specific key action in the program guide. In practical arrangements, you should detail how practical and logistical arrangements will be addressed, which include but are not limited to travel, accommodation, insurance, safety and protection of participants, visas, social security considerations, mentoring and support, and preparatory meetings with partners. If your project involves minors, participants under the age of 18, or vulnerable adults, it is very important that you provide information regarding how you will ensure their safeguarding and welfare. So this section should detail how and when you plan to deliver these practical aspects and which partners or individuals will manage these. See pages 280-285 in the program guide for more details. Partner responsibilities and how you will work together to manage practical arrangements and your communications channels. Any potential risks in relation to tasks, participants, and location, as well as your plans for mitigating these risks to ensure the safety of all involved. This should include agreements on emergency procedures and a code of behavior for participants. In addition, include your plans for obtaining suitable insurance and managing any additional visa requirements and legal aspects. We expect that you plan to comply with UK legislation and consider relevant national legislation in the country of each partner. Detailed information about these is included in the guide for applicants. If you have further concerns, please contact our team before you submit your application. At a minimum, the following areas must be covered by appropriate insurance: travel, including damage or loss of luggage, third-party liability, accident and serious illness or death. You should also specify any particular procedures you will implement, for example, parental consent, health and safety audits, and DBS checks. If participants have specific needs, demonstrate how this will be addressed. In the project management section, you should focus on the process you have established for agreeing roles and responsibilities with partners in order to ensure quality learning outcomes, as well as good administration and delivery of the project, the process for establishing suitable methods and agreeing on monitoring learning outcomes for participants. Ensure you detail how you intend to facilitate their active involvement and reflection to ensure the relevance and quality of these outcomes. Preparation of participants should describe the training plan for participants and group leaders as deemed necessary for the success of the project. This should detail the training to be provided when and by whom. This must not only cover task-based training to ensure participants' safety and ability to engage with activities, but provide adequate support for the intercultural and linguistic learning. You should also describe which partner will deliver preparatory activities and when they will take place. Finally, information about language and cultural preparation, practical orientation, and risk prevention describing how the preparations are relevant to the experience should be included. Moving on to the activities section. This is one of the most important parts of the application. You are required to complete the budget headings for each activity separately, which includes special needs costs and exceptional costs. Therefore, you will need to ensure the costs requested are relevant to the activity. For the first question, you will need to outline all activities, the context and objectives, and detail how they meet the objectives of the project. Next, for each activity, you should provide details on the type of activity, venues, planned dates, working methods used, countries involved, and the roles of participating organizations. Remember, this information is also to be provided within the timetable of activities, which must be annexed to the application. The template can be downloaded in the Annexes section, which we'll review later on. For youth exchanges and advanced planning visits, the timetables should detail the program for each day. For youth worker mobility, the timetable should provide a sample of either a week's program or program overview if planning an activity for several weeks. In addition, describe how you decided on this program and how your method and activity are relevant to your objectives, learning outcomes, and impact. All activities will need to demonstrate compliance with the principles and provisions described in the Erasmus Plus Program Guide, Annex 1, Mobility Project for Young People and Youth Workers. This includes the use of a variety of informal and non-formal methods to generate learning. Formal methods should be strictly limited. All activities should include space for participants to reflect on their learning, ideally using Youth Pass, and you should encourage active participation, creativity, and initiative. Next, Outline the methods you will use to ensure regular communication with your partners or other project stakeholders. Good partnership is crucial, so you should present a clear set of roles and responsibilities in the activity delivery, project management, and administration. Outline the methods by which you will maintain contact before, during, and after activity. To complete your list of activities, click on the activity ID or use the menu button. Firstly, select the activity type from the drop-down menu and enter the activity title. For each activity, enter details of each flow by clicking the flow number or using the menu button. Complete all mandatory fields. Group. For ease, if you have several activities, you should use the same group number for the corresponding national group. Country of origin. Country of destination will provide options only based on the partners identified. City of venue. Start and end date should reflect only the activity and exclude travel days. As best practice, you should allow at least a month after the earliest project start date, so in case the grant agreement of funding is not received by the project start date, you have sufficient time to plan accordingly. Travel days are in addition to the activity duration. You can request up to 2 travel days. Next, we need to enter the number of participants, which must include all young people, group leaders, and accompanying persons. Ensure the minimum and maximum numbers for each activity type are adhered to. From the total participant number, you will identify the number of participants with special needs who will require additional support to aid their participation in the activity and the number of participants with fewer opportunities. Accompanying persons are defined as someone who accompanies participants with special needs to ensure protection, provide support, and extra assistance. Group leaders, trainers, facilitators. A group leader must be at least 18 of age, and their role in the youth exchange is to ensure effective learning for all participants. For the distance band, use the European Commission distance calculator to calculate the one-way distance. The distance band selected calculates travel funding for a return journey. Distances shouldn't be rounded up and are checked by the national agency during the assessment of your application. To access the distance calculator, you simply have to click the calculator icon. As we type in the city, we are presented with a list of options, which we must select for the calculator to acknowledge. We will use the distance given in the application form. Fields within the budget sections will also need to be completed. The overall budget will automatically calculate. Durations should be inclusive of travel days. At the bottom of the budget section, you can also include any additional costs for special needs and exceptional costs. For both sections, you must enter the number of participants this is required for, a description of the cost, and the amount you are requesting. Under exceptional costs, it is possible to request costs for expensive travel. Please refer to the 2018 Program Guide and our Guide for Applicants for further details on the rules for requesting these costs. However, it is important to note that if you are requesting exceptional costs for expensive travel costs, you should only request these under the exceptional cost section of the application and not under travel to avoid requesting the costs twice. Once flow details are completed, go back to the activity details. Additional flows can be added by clicking Add Flow. And removed by clicking the menu button and selecting Delete Flow. Now, as you can see, I have created two activities, one APV and one youth exchanges, each having two flows. Please note the word activity refers to one specific mobility exchange, while flow refers to a national group attending said activities. As the budget is broken down by flow, having a correct breakdown is of great importance. Each activity must be added separately with its specific flows. We cannot fund activities if they are not listed in the application form. You should also ensure that the activity listed are consistent with the information given within the narrative of the application form. Hints and tips. Any costs requested under special needs and exceptional costs will need to be justified as they are based on actual costs rather than unit costs. A clear breakdown should be given for all costs and each cost itemized separately. You should ensure special needs and exceptional costs are requested against the correct activity. For example, if you are applying for accommodation costs for an APV and visas for the youth exchange participants, do not put those both under APV activity budget, as the youth exchange visas will be deemed ineligible under the APV. Ensure participant numbers are correct and consistent throughout the entire activity section. After all activity and flow information has been completed, check the final total activity budget for accuracy. The national agency is unable to award any additional grant for administrative errors. Please refer to our guide for applicants for further details regarding the costs you can request under special needs costs and exceptional costs. Moving on to the follow-up section, which looks at impact dissemination and evaluation. For this section, you should list the expected outcomes for participants resulting from their planned learning and active involvement and participation in the project. This may include knowledge, skills, changes in behavior and attitudes, impacts on employment status, ability to access further education, well-being, or lifestyle. Consider the most relevant realistic outcomes for participating organizations, detail how the activity might generate organizational learning or specific skills for staff. Describe the influence the project may have on future work. You should also consider if this project will develop the participating organizations or participants' understanding of an issue, youth work, or train them in any new methodology that can be implemented in the local community. Highlight any activities you plan to involve the wider community in and the benefits to them. Given that dissemination should be considered throughout the project, you should ensure that dissemination activities are focused, relevant, and well described, and that the target audiences are clearly identified. Dissemination activities may be in the form of local meetings, workshops, or discussions, and you may use handouts, reports, evaluations, or videos. You may also plan to obtain press coverage or invite local councillors or decision makers to dissemination events. The Erasmus Plus communications team is always keen to hear about interesting case studies, and there is an Erasmus Plus dissemination platform which can be used to share project outcomes called the Erasmus Plus Project Results Platform. For youth worker mobilities projects, each individual that participates in the project is expected to cascade information across the formal and informal networks upon their return, and that dissemination takes place across all partner organizations. You are also expected to include a final evaluation of the project in which you will be able to assess whether or to what extent the project has been a success. This evaluation should highlight the learning outcomes of all involved. This section should detail how activities will be monitored, and through what methods they will be evaluated. We encourage evaluation before and during the activity in addition to the final evaluation. This helps with establishing baselines and identifying and implementing improvement. Consider involving partners, placement providers, and participants in all stages of the evaluation. Identify how you will evaluate the activities during the project and participant satisfaction with the placement overall. How will you evaluate the management processes, the long-term evaluation of the project, and how findings will be used? Moving on to the budget summary section. This page provides an overview based on the activities entered. Each section will be displayed on the budget page. It is important to be aware that if the project is approved, the applicant organization will receive the grant and will be responsible for distributing it amongst the partners to ensure the effective delivery of the project. Remember, the Erasmus Plus grant is regarded as a contribution to your project costs and may not cover the total cost of your project. The UK National Agency cannot award any funding over the amount requested, so please ensure that you check your budget thoroughly before submitting your application. There are two funding mechanisms under KA1 Youth Mobility. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, you have unit costs and actual costs. The budget categories for a KA1 Youth project include the following: travel, which is a contribution towards the cost of each participant's return journey from their place of origin to the location of their mobility activity. Travel is calculated on a unit cost basis and is based on the travel distance according to the distance calculator. Organizational support is calculated on a unit cost basis and is a contribution towards costs directly linked to the implementation of mobility activities. It includes subsistence for participants or accommodation. The funds are expected to include preparation, monitoring and support, and validation of learning outcomes as well. Special needs support is only applicable if you plan to involve participants with special needs or disability, which will result in additional costs. This component of the grant is based on an estimate of the likely actual costs relating specifically to the needs of participants with disabilities. Ensure you provide a clear and detailed justification for the amount requested. This will be assessed as part of the overall assessment of the application. If the request is not considered reasonable, it may be reduced or removed. While there is no limit to the amount you can request, the balance will be payable on actual costs evidenced at final report stage. Exceptional costs are calculated on a real cost basis as well. Applicants must detail how many participants the funds are required for and a breakdown of costs in the narrative. Funding rules state that these costs are specifically to support the following: visa and visa-related costs, costs for providing a financial guarantee, expensive travel costs, which, as mentioned, includes expensive domestic travel costs and travel costs for participants from outermost regions and overseas countries and territories. Please note that you must demonstrate in the budget comments that the standard unit cost for travel will not cover at least 70% of the cost of the journey and that you can only claim for 80% of the total costs. Exceptional costs may also support participation of young people with fewer opportunities, accommodation and board costs for advanced planning visits, maximum 2-day activities, and 3 nights accommodation. The costs that you can request under each budget heading vary across activity types, so please refer to the program guide for additional clarification. If any errors are identified in this section, you will need to go back to the flows and activities to amend. Moving on to the project summary section. Here you should ensure you provide a well-written, comprehensive summary of your project. Project summaries must be written in clear, plain English and free from jargon. It is important to be concise and clear and mention at least the following elements: context background of project, objectives of the project, number and profile of participants, description of activities, methodology to be used in carrying out the project, a short description of the results and impact expected, and the potential long-term benefits. The summary may be used by the European Commission or the national agency in their publications and will be published on the Erasmus Plus dissemination platform if the project is approved. The subsection Summary of Participating Organization and Summary of Activities and Participants are pre-populated tables based on information from earlier sections of the application. If any information in these sections is incorrect, you will need to go back to earlier sections of the application. Moving on to the Annexes section. Up to 10 annexes relevant to your application can be uploaded. The following documents are mandatory: the Declaration of Honor, which needs to be downloaded from this page by clicking Download Declaration of Honor. This will need to be printed and signed by the legal representative named in the application. This must then be scanned and attached as an annex to your online application by clicking Add Declaration of Honor. This document needs to be hand-signed and no electronic signature or inserts, photos, or scans of signatures can be accepted. You must also attach a timetable of project activities to the application form. The timetable template can be downloaded by clicking Download Timetable. Simply click Add Timetable to upload. Partner mandates for each partner must also be annexed. Both the applicant and partner legal representatives must hand-sign these. The template is available on the Erasmus Plus website. Applicants need to ensure that all documents specified in the checklist are submitted electronically with the application. Click Add File to upload each document. Please note that only PDF, Doc, DocX, XLS, JPEG, text, ODT, and ODS files can be submitted electronically. No other files will be accepted. Any files that has been added in error can be removed by clicking the cross on the corresponding row. Checklist. Finally, we proceed to the checklist section. This provides a quick review checklist so that you are able to mark off the completed submission activities. Ensure you fulfill all the listed requirements. Additionally, please refer to the application checklist the UK National Agency have created to aid you in preparing and submitting your application. This can be found in our guide for applicants. The Data Protection Notice provides information on data protection, which applicants are required to read. Tick the box to confirm you agree with the notice. Once you have completed the application form, you will need to check the following components. Check all mandatory fields have been completed. Any section displaying a red triangle will need to be reviewed and fully completed. Read the Data Protection Notice and tick the box. The legal representative of the applicant organization must print the Declaration of Honor, read it, complete the fields, and hand sign the form. The signed Declaration of Honor should be scanned and attached as an annex. So, finally, here are some general hints and tips to help you complete your application form. Read all our guidance and ensure that you are aware of the eligibility criteria for your type of project and the award criteria it will be assessed against. The deadline mentioned in the application form is Brussels time, so please note that the form needs to be submitted online by 11 a.m. UK time on the deadline day. We advise you to leave plenty of time in completing your application and submitting it online before the deadline in case of any unexpected technical difficulties. Ensure you are connected to the internet at all times when completing the form. Download the completed PDF version for your own records using the PDF button. Applications now have the option to share application on a read basis only with another user who has an EU login account. When you are ready, press the Submit button. If the submission is successful, the submission summary should update with the submission ID. We advise you to save a final copy to evidence successful submission in case of any query. If there are any technical issues preventing the form from being submitted and you are unable to submit the application, you should follow the alternative submission procedure outlined in the Guide for Applicants. This asks you to take a screenshot of the submission summary page demonstrating that the web form could not be submitted and emailing this along with your application and annexes to the UK National Agency within the 2 hours of the official deadline, which would be 1 p.m. UK time. Lastly, please be advised that applicants cannot make any changes to the grant application after the submission deadline. So this completes the step-by-step walkthrough of the KA1 Youth Mobility e-form. For further guidance on completing the application form, please read the specific guide for applicants that can be found on our website under the Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page. As previously stated, you will need to ensure that all annexes are attached before attempting submission. The most important annexes which are mandatory are the Declaration of Honor. It needs to be printed, completed in full, and hand-signed by the project's legal representative named within your application. As you have seen during the presentation, this is found at the end of the actual e-form under Annexes. This is the most important annex, as without this, we are not able to forward the application to assessment. This document will be a PDF, so please ensure that you have the most up-to-date version of Adobe and are able to download it. The second mandatory annex is an activity timetable in which you will provide a time frame and description of the planned activities. You must submit a timetable for each activity of your project, including advanced planning visits. Partner mandates need to be completed for each partner. These also need to be printed hand-signed by the legal representatives of both organizations. The last two annexes mentioned, the timetable and partner mandates, can be found on our website under the Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page. We recommend that, where possible, you scan the same type of documents together into a single file. For example, all partner mandates to be scanned together rather than individually. You need to check that the annexes don't exceed the maximum 10 megabyte size and are in the file format accepted by the web form, which are listed in our guide for applicants. If you continue to experience problems with attaching annexes after having checked these aspects, you can email them to erasmusplus@ecoris.com. before the deadline, clearly stating which application form they relate to by providing the application hash code and also telling us your organization's detail and project name. However, please only do this as an exception and ensure you have followed all the available guidance first. You will need to ensure that you are connected to the internet in order to complete the application form, as it is web-based. If you experience technical problems which you are unable to resolve, as previously stated, you need to follow the alternative submission procedure. But please be mindful we can only accept technical errors with the e-form. We have created an application checklist which is included in our KA1 Youth guide for applicants to help you check that all required steps have been completed in preparing and submitting your applications. Once we have received your application, the UK National Agency will do some preliminary checks on your application. It will be deemed ineligible and will not go forward to assessment if it does not meet any of the eligibility criteria specified in the program guide for KA1 Youth Mobility projects. You will find these on page 76 to 78 of the program guide. On this slide, you can see some examples. Your organization will not be eligible and will not move forward to assessment if your planned activities are not eligible under KA1 Youth. Your organization as applicant has no legal personality in the UK. Annexes are missing. You submit your application after the deadline. Once your application has been deemed as eligible, the National Agency will arrange for it to be assessed by external experts from a qualitative point of view against the award criteria published on page 79 of the program guide. On the slide you can see the 3 award criteria, which shows that an application can score a maximum of 100 points. As a rule, for an application to be eligible to be awarded funding, it must score a minimum of 60 points, but also at least half of the maximum points in each award criterion. When reading the award criteria information within the program guide, you will notice that each criterion has sub-points. These need to be taken into consideration when preparing your application. For the 2018 call, a new element of the award criteria was introduced for all youth projects: the extent to which the project will involve newcomers to the action. Therefore, if you or any of your partners are new to the Erasmus Plus funding, you should include this information in your application form. I would like to point out that as part of the assessment process, the National Agency will also check that the requested budget is in line with the funding rules set out in Part B of the program guide. As a result, if there are any budget requests that do not follow the rules, your requested budgets may be reduced. During the qualitative assessment process, applications will also be assessed against other relevant areas. Applicants confirm with the declaration of honor that they do not fall within the program exclusion criteria, which can be found in the 2018 program guide. These are situations such as being bankrupt or participating in criminal activities. An applicant will be excluded from participating in a call for proposal or will be rejected from the award procedure if it is found to be in one of the situations described in the criteria. The selection criteria assess an organization's operational capacity and financial capacity. In terms of operational capacity, applicants need to demonstrate they have the capacity to successfully deliver Erasmus Plus projects and administer them in accordance with the grant agreement and the 2018 program guide. The assessment of organizational capacity will consider elements like the roles of staff involved in delivering the planned projects and the past history of the applicants in delivering EU-funded projects. An outcome of this analysis may be that the national agency may limit the number of live projects an organization manages at any one time if it doesn't evidence sufficient organizational capacity to successfully deliver them. In terms of financial capacity, an Erasmus Plus grant may not cover the full cost of the project, and the grant is expected to be a contribution towards the full cost. Project must be delivered and reported using one pre-financing payment, and in some cases, such as where the applicant has weak financial capacity, the national agency may stage pre-financing payment or offer payments of the grant in arrears. Therefore, applicants must have stable and sufficient sources of funding to complete the project. The national agency is required to carry out a financial capacity check on all organizations who request a grant exceeded €60,000 and who are not public bodies or international organizations. If you are therefore requesting a grant in excess of €60,000, you must upload a copy of your organization's accounts for this check. For further information, please see page 12 of our KA1 Youth Guide for applicants. Please also be aware that in cases where the national agency has serious concerns about the financial capacity of an organization, or where cumulative grant requests submitted by the same organization for several projects exceed €60,000, the national agency may decide to do a financial capacity check. Finally, when planning your project, remember that each project financed by the EU is entitled to receive just the one grant for the EU budget. In cases where organizations are also receiving funding from other sources to deliver similar activities, it is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure they remain compliant with the relevant funding rules, including those in relation to double funding, which are detailed in Part C of the Program Guide. The national agency will be validating your organization. This is a separate process to the assessment of your application. Therefore, the fact that your organization has been validated does not automatically imply a successful outcome of your application. During the validation process, the national agency will check whether all information you have put into the participant portal is complete and correct. We will check whether the required legal and financial forms have been uploaded, as well as the supporting documents. More information about this can be found in Part C of the Program Guide, starting on page 245, including information on the exclusion criteria. Your partners should also have the relevant documents uploaded on the participant portal. Please note that organizations that are not valid cannot take part in Erasmus Plus funded projects. If you or your organization cannot provide the correct or fully completed documents during the validation process, there may be significant delays in the processing of your application, and the NA may even have to withdraw its offer of funding if your application is successful. So, before we conclude, some key points for you to remember. Before and while you complete your application, refer to the Commission's document, first of all the 2018 Program Guide, the National Agency's Guide for Applicants, and other guidance documents available on our website. If you have applied before, don't forget to review the feedback you have received from us, as this will include key areas for improvement, which will enhance your chances of submitting a good quality application. Ensure correct options are selected on the application so that important sections aren't deleted. As we've said, while looking through the application form, double-check that the budgetary request is accurate and well justified. Provide relevant answers to the questions of the application, and remember that there is a character limit on many of the sections. Get someone else to proofread your application and annexes, perhaps against the published award criteria. Leave enough time for completing and submitting your application before the deadline. To conclude, I would like to remind you of the support the UK National Agency will be offering in the run-up of the upcoming deadline of the 4th of October 2018. A detailed guide for applicants on how to fill out and submit the application form is available. Please make sure you check the correct one as these guides are tailored for each key action type we manage. If you haven't done so already, please sign up to our newsletter, as this provides all the most up-to-date information about the call and the Erasmus Plus program. Our website holds other important information and key documents to support you with completing your application. If you have any questions or find yourself in need of guidance, you can always contact the Erasmus Plus helpline. Our team is available every Monday to Friday to answer any questions you may have via email or our helpline. Details are on this slide. Do also keep an eye on the Erasmus Plus website for news and further guidance. We hope you found the session useful today, and we wish you best luck with your future application. Thank you for your attention.